guys, how's it going? Today we're going to be making a wreath and a garland, and I want to show you the step-by-step instructions on how to get those done. If you want to skip forward right to the instructions, you can go to this time signature right there. Otherwise, we need to gather some supplies first. Also, when I'm all done, my parents, my sister, my brother, and his son, they're all coming over this evening. We're gonna have dinner and we're gonna set up in here, and they're all gonna make wreaths as well. It's gonna be so fun. First of all, remove cat. Russell, can you scoot? You're right on my wreath form. So first off, we need a wreath form. This is a 16-inch wreath form. You can get them in all kinds of different sizes. I would say that a 14 or a 16-inch is kind of a standard like front door size. These are the types of greens we're going to be working with today. We've got noble fir, princess pine, and some beautiful incense cedar. We're not going to use any other, berries or evergreen or any kind of decorative things in the wreath. I just want this to be very simple, very basic, and just very clean looking. And I want it to take us through the Christmas season and then also through January. I just want it to look very winter. I also brought out a brand new pair of Falco 2s. Oh, this is going to be such a pleasure. I love opening up a new pair. Doesn't happen all that often. And then I've got some twine. This is for our garland. And I've got some 24 gauge. You can also use a 22 gauge. Those are kind of the easiest ones. Paddle wire. And you want to get it in a paddle like this. It's much easier to manipulate and to work with than any other shape of wire. Sometimes they come on more round spools. Those are so hard to work with, or at least I'm just not used to it. I wanted to show you my bulk greens out here though. So this is what mine look like right here. You can check with your local garden center or your florist. Oftentimes they have the ability to order in bulk greens like this, and especially if you'd like to do a lot of projects or you want to host a wreath making party or something, it definitely is an easy way to get a hold of them. Obviously more cost effective if you have evergreens large enough in your own garden to harvest some branches from. It doesn't take all that many to make something like this, honestly. And if you harvest kind of sparingly and throughout the whole tree, most of the time you can't even tell you've harvested branches. And also kind of focusing more toward the back side of the trees that you don't see, you won't see those as much either. We have a lot of Serbian spruce, Norway spruce, which will be wonderful once they get a little bit bigger. We've got some Vanderwolf pine and Austrian pine out there, as well as juniper is awesome. If you can get a hold of some junipers, especially with the blueberries, those make for a beautiful accent to a wreath. You can also use holly, like the evergreen holly or winterberry holly that has the beautiful red or gold berries. There's all kinds of different things you can use in wreaths like this. Also, if you have a fresh cut Christmas tree, oftentimes, you're trimming up the bottom branches so that you can fit it into your stand or wherever you need to put it. You can use those branches and you can just store them outside. This is how I store mine, just out on the ground with the lids open. They receive whatever natural rainfall they get here. They hold just fine. You can also go to Christmas tree lots. Oftentimes they'll have like a bin full of branches like that. And we've also foraged in the woods as well. But you do want to make sure if you're foraging in the woods that you check the rules, because there are different rules for different areas. I know for ours, you can forage if it's for like small amounts for personal use. They don't want you just out there foraging so much and then going and selling it, which makes sense. You know what? I think I'm going to bring one box of each type of evergreen in here, and then we can get started. I think I've got everything else I need out here. You can use gloves for this. A lot of people prefer to. I typically don't like to wear gloves, but if you don't like to and you get sap all over your hands, you can use mayonnaise. Just go rub mayonnaise all over your hands and it takes the sap right off. This looks like a great box of fur. I gotta use both hands. Are you gonna come out and hang out with me? Are you gonna hang out with me? Yay! With my stuff. Oh, hi, Cheddar. Okay, we've got everything we need to make our wreath first. So we've got the wreath form, paddle wire, clippers, and our 3 types of evergreen. And they look so pretty together. These textures are all so different and the colors are different. So it's gonna make a beautiful wreath, even though we don't have a lot of extra fluff and, red berries and things like that to put in our wreath. So to make the process of the actual wreath building go a little bit quicker, you wanna pre-cut your evergreens and have little have little bundles. Can you hear Samantha? The kids are playing in their sandboxes nearby. So to make our bundles, we're just going to pre-cut smaller pieces because, you know, obviously you're not going to use this big thing in a wreath. We just want them to be a little bit more petite, and you can always cut them a little bit more if you need to. So we've got a pile of pine, and we'll need more than this, but we're going to start there. And then we'll make our pile of fir. And I wish fir grew for us down at our elevation, but they just do not thrive. They're so beautiful and they smell so good. Okay.
Didn't our neighbor try to grow fir?
Yeah, we had a neighbor, Aaron and I, in our second house that tried really hard to grow fir, and he was out there every day, like twice a day, misting it. It was planted in a full sun location in his front yard.
Never took off.
It never did take off, no. Okay, so there's our pile of fir, and then let's do a pile of cedar.
You told him it wasn't going to grow.
I did.
And then he still was like, I'll make it grow.
Yeah, he sure proved me wrong, didn't he? Oh, this incense cedar. We'll get a close-up on this in a minute, but it's just got the most beautiful color. I'm going to do a little bit more in my piles here, and then we'll start wreath construction. Our piles of evergreens are prepped and ready to go. I want to guess that this will be about half of what I use today. Of course, it will completely depend on what look you're going for, how big the wreath is, how full you want it. You know, you'll use more evergreens for those bigger wreaths than you will for something thinner or smaller. First step is to attach our paddle wire. So to do that, we're just going to unroll a little length of it. We're going to twist it around. I kind of just do like a figure 8 around the wreath form right here, and just twist it back onto itself like this. Just make sure it's nice and tight. And even after you have it attached this first time, I like to take my wire and we'll go around twice. Now, 2 really important pieces of information on wreath making. Your paddle wire stays attached like this to the wreath form and to your paddle the entire wreath making process. You do not cut it off until the very end, and I'll show you how to end it when we get there. So we've got that prepped and ready to go. The second really important thing is to not make your evergreen bundles too big, because what we're going to be doing is creating our bundles. So I'll just do a real quick one here. You basically just grab, you know, a few of your evergreens like that, and we're going to lay them on the wreath, wire them on, and we keep doing that the whole way. Well, if you start with too big of a bundle, that's going to make your wreath really, really thick. And you just want to be mindful of that, because you want to make sure you still have a center hole so that you can see through it, so it still looks like a wreath. I've made a few in my day, especially when I was very first starting out, that were way too thick. And the size of your first bundle will indicate the size of all the rest of your bundles all the way around, for the most part. So to make my bundles, I'll start usually with a nice piece of fir. That's a really beautiful backdrop right now there. That's a really thick piece, so I'm mindful of that, and I won't add a lot of extra. I'll add, you know, a piece of incense cedar that looks really nice right here. And then we're going to add a little piece of pine like that. That is a beautiful bundle right there. See how I just kind of layered them together? So where we have our paddle wire attached, I'm going to lay the bottom of the bundle right on top of the wreath form right there. And then we take our paddle wire and we go around it. I go 3 times, and you want to pull like as tight as the wire will let you. If you're using 24 gauge wire like I have, it's easy to break it. So don't pull it too hard, but you want it to be tight enough to where when your greens start to dry out, because they will dry out over the season, they start to shrivel or desiccate, and they will want to fall out if the wire's not tight enough. So there's kind of that like fine line. So those are kind of the 2 important pieces of information. There's our first bundle right there. Let's make our second. Noble fir, and you can make your bundles however you want. They don't all have to look the same. I want mine to be fairly uniform in the end. So we're going to be pretty close to the same. Let's see, something like that. So your next bundle, instead of laying directly on top of the first one, you're going to rotate it out just a slight bit. You're going to be overlapping your bottom one and rotating it out. And then you take your paddle wire, wrap it around 3 times like this, pulling tight, and then we're going to make our third bundle. After our third bundle, it's pretty self-explanatory how you get all the way around. We've got our fir. I'm going to put our incense cedar behind this time. Got a nice big piece of pine here. So you may have to do a little bit of trimming along the way. Okay, there's my third bundle right there. So third bundle, instead of rotating outward, you'll rotate a little bit inward like that, overlapping that last bundle we laid down. I want that one to be facing like that. There we go. And we'll pull our paddle wire 3 times. If you have long tails like this, you can trim them off if you want to. Sometimes they just, or most of the time, they just disappear behind the wreath. So that's basically the process all the way around until you get to about here. And then I will stop and I'll show you how to end your wreath. So let's just build the rest of this thing. Okay, we're not quite to the finish line yet, but you can see that the branches or the ends of the branches from my last bundle are meeting up with my first one. So at this point, it's going to take probably 2 or 3 more bundles to finish the entire wreath. As we lay those down so that we don't pinch down the first bundle, which is so beautiful, we'll just sort of lift it up and slide our new bundles underneath. And it's just a little bit more of a slower process to get your wire around. You just, wire around while holding this up so that you're not pinching any of that down. Once we complete that step, I'll show you what to do with the wire. Boy, that went fast. I've been at it for like 10 minutes. But when you prep all of your greens and stuff, it just goes so fast. I do need a few more though. Another thing you can do instead of doing the individual bundles, if you get a nice big filler piece like this, you can just slide that in underneath. Look how beautiful that is and how it sort of just fills in that gap. And then you can build on top of that just right there on the wreath and make it look exactly how you want it to. And then feed your wire around it. Instead of like pre-building your bundle and sliding it in, building it right on the wreath is sometimes the way that it works out the best. Oh gosh, that is so pretty. Okay, so now we're going to take our wire and just ever so carefully wind it around all of this beautiful stuff we just put in here. You do want to make sure if you've slid in branches like I just did, that the wire goes around all the bases of the branches, which can be a little bit more tricky because it's harder to see where they're at. I think we've found it. Yep, our paddle wire is still attached to our wreath form. We are going to take it and cut about a foot length, maybe a little more than that. Then we will take our whole wreath, pop it upside down, and we're just going to tie it off to the wreath form. It's as simple as that. So we're just going to find a nice empty spot, pull it around, pull it tight, and we're just going to keep doing that until we run out of wire. And if you want to, at the end of the season, when all of your evergreens have, dried and they look pretty rough, you can go along with wire cutters and just cut all of that paddle wire, free your wreath form, and then you'll have it again for the next year. Now you can make your own wreath forms too out of tree branches and stuff like that, but this is easy, they're cheap, and they're round. A lot of times when you're trying to make a wreath form yourself, they can get a little bit wonky. All right. What do you think? Are there holes? The hole in the center looks pretty nice. And if you feel a little bit uncomfortable about where you ended your wreath, because I know, especially when I very first started making them, they always looked more scant. It was just very hard to fill in that space. That is a great spot to put the wreath hook or to put a bow. I mean, it just covers it right up, no stress, and it will look absolutely beautiful. All right, so that is how one makes a wreath. Let's clear our space. Pretty much all I need to do. I'm gonna get my string and we'll make a garland. Okay, we are ready to make our garland now. The only supply that's going to change is our form. So our wreath form, of course, is round. Our garland is going to be flat. So you can use string like this. You can use twine that's even thinner than this. You can even use a tree branch. If you want to use something that might kind of pop through and you can see it a little bit and you're going to lay it on a table, that is a great thing to use. This is really nice if you want it to be more flexible, if you want to kind of curve it around some candles on a table, or if you want to curve it around the door. And you can make a garland however long you want. I think the longest garland I have made might have been about 35 or 40 feet. It was sizable. It took a little while to make that. And I used to make fresh garland to go around our doors when we used to live in our townhouse. And it's kind of a fun memory. But our form So our string, you're going to want to cut that just a little bit longer than you want your end result to be. So I'm going to make mine fairly short today so that it fits on this table. So we've got our string this long, keeping in mind that your end piece on either side will go over. It will be longer than this is. So that part's done. Now we attach our wire. You guys, this is basically the same as making a wreath. So to attach our wire, and I hope you can see this, you basically just kind of tie them together. Just wire the heck out of it until you feel confident that it's not going to come off. And again, we're not going to be cutting the paddle wire until the very end. So the paddle wire will sit to the side while our form goes the other direction. They are perpendicular to one another. And then we're going to make our bundles again. So garlands, you can make them however wide or thin you want to. I'm going to be using the same stuff. I do try to pick a real pretty piece for each of my ends, because oftentimes, you know, that's what's popping out and that's what you see on either end. So anyway, that's what I'm starting with, a nice big piece of fir. And then we're going to put a couple pieces of pine on top of that, and then a couple pieces of incense cedar. Look like that. We're going to lay it over that spot where we just put our wire. It's a little more squirrely than the wreath form, of course, because the twine will want to move around. So just hang on to it tight with your bundle, and we're going to just go around 3 times. And 3. You want to be able to do like one of these and it's not falling off. I think I've told this story before, but my mom is a florist, and she used to work for a florist in our town when I was real young. And when she was being taught how to make corsages, wreaths, all those kinds of things, the owner of the florist shop would grab her finished product and would throw it up against a wall to see if it held together. And if it didn't, she had to build it again. Like, that's how important it was to him that they learn to put things together properly so they didn't fall apart. I would have probably cried if somebody threw my thing up against a wall. Okay, next bundle, and you can see all my evergreen pieces are right behind me here. A little less convenient because we have to turn around for each one of them, but these, since it's flat like this, I'm just going to build them right here, right on top of the twine. So same kind of deal. See how this bundle is going over the top and slightly to the left? You can build right on top if you want to, but it kind of takes a little bit better shape if you do that rotating thing, just the same as with a wreath. So this piece of rope, I'm making sure to keep it not like, I don't pull it really tight, but I make sure that it stays straight. You don't want it to get all bound up underneath and either pull off the first one or crumple up to where you don't end up with as much twine in the end. My mom does garland and wreath making classes down at the garden center every year. They do 4 of them now. And yeah, I've heard the demonstration talk a lot of times on how to do this. It's been very helpful to me. Okay, so this bundle is going slightly to the right. Again, making sure our string stays straight. Paddle wire. 3 bundles down, we're just going to continue on left, right, all the way till the end until we need to make a bundle and twist it the other direction and lay it over all the infrastructure so that all that's covered. The other way you can do this, which is really nice, especially if you've got it on a table or a mantle, you can build like this to the center, stop, and then build from the other side to the center, and then create a little centerpiece, you know, a little bundle of greens that covers all of the infrastructure. That way you have garland going each direction. It's very pleasing to look at. Maybe we'll build like that. Yeah, I think that might be nice because this is going on a table. If it's like going on a console, honestly, if it's going over a door, it's nice to have your garland going the right direction. So let's do that. We'll build to the center. We'll start here, build to the center, and then I'll stop and show you how to end it. It's almost done. We're at the center. This side is a tiny bit longer than this side. So the paddle wire is close enough to where we can just drag it over and wire another bundle onto this side. And then it's just individually wiring on pieces to where we make the center look really full and pretty. And you can make it a little bit bigger than the rest of the garland if you want, or you can try to make it look very similar, or you can even add pine cones and that kind of thing to the center, and that would be really pretty. So The best kind, like I was saying earlier, hold on, let me grab one. The best kinds of things for masking the end are tufts, like this kind of a thing right here, because you can cut this branch off, but then you can cut this skinny spot off and see how it's just all full. There's no long stem. So you would put that in there and then run the wire around the base of it, and you won't be able to see that. You'll just be able to see this poof of evergreen. So that's kind of how I do it. Try to make it look like the rest of it. That'll be the goal anyway. So here we go. Got a bunch of spruce cones and pine cones in here, which would look pretty too. These are wired. I probably use these for a different project at some point. Look at how pretty that is. Yeah, I like the little spruce cones. They're a little bit more delicate. We could kind of tuck these in throughout, and I'm just going to hot glue them in. And you guys, all of these spruce cones came out of the blue spruce tree that fell down in a windstorm out in our garden. So it's kind of special to be able to reuse these over and over and over again. Okay, we're going to go ahead and finish this right here. So we're going to do the same thing, cut the wire. I'm going to flip the whole thing like that, and we're just going to tie it off to the string and to evergreen branches and whatever else we find back here. Okay, check that out. Isn't it pretty just by itself? Oh, I love it. It will look even prettier with pine cones. So I'm just going to kind of place these around where I want them, and then we will hot glue them in. That might be all we need. I'm going to have to glue a couple of evergreen pieces right here. I thought I was going to use more pine cones, but I think that just a little bit in this situation, less is more, maybe. Okay, let's take a look. What do you think? Isn't that pretty? Oh, I haven't put anything on the mantle in our front kind of room in the old side of the house. I think this will look really good right there. Oh, so much fun. And here's a little bit more of a close-up view. I love the addition of the pine cones. That brought a little more texture, and it is so pretty. This is the side that was facing me the whole time. Right here, they pretty much look the same. And honestly, where we made our transition, you know, where we kind of bridged that gap, it's nice and strong, and you can't really tell. And here's a closer look at our wreath right here prior to hanging it. We'll go hang it here in a minute. I hope that seeing the step-by-step on the garland and wreath was helpful. I think sometimes just knowing the supplies you need to get started is just half the battle, and gathering up your stuff. And you don't really need all that much to do this sort of project unless you want to amp it up with, you know, picks, you know, holiday picks. You could work all kinds of stuff into these sorts of things. I mean, I could have put sedum, seed heads, echinacea seed heads, all kinds of things from out in the garden, branches that are real pretty. You can incorporate so many different things, and everybody always has a little bit of a different take. It's so fun when I go down to the garland and wreath making seminar down at the garden center to see how everybody's looks so different, like wildly different. And I know some of you guys have big evergreens in your garden and or woods right out your back door, which makes it really easy to gather some things up. But again, you can check with your local garden center, especially if they're one that stays open year round or carries Christmas trees. Check with your florist, check with a Christmas tree lot. Oftentimes those are really good resources. You don't have to go too far to get things. It's coming back, the rain. All while the heater is blowing heat on me right now. So it's just like the best of both worlds. All right, guys, I'm gonna get this area sort of set up. I think I'm gonna hang more Christmas lights. I was thinking it's gonna get dark like pretty soon before everybody gets here to make wreaths. And so I think I'm just gonna hang a bunch more Christmas lights up here. I think that'll illuminate it enough. I have patio lights, which do a fairly decent job, but we need a little bit more brightness. And I'm gonna drag some tables around, bring all the greens in. I've gotta cook dinner. We need to place these in the house. So that's the list for this afternoon. Anyway, I'll try to capture what I can. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.